All right, so this one is going to be just a wee bit more advanced for some of my friends that have put in the time. They understand trading. They understand the basics of indicators. You know, volume, shares outstanding. Uh, and various other things. They've got an overall general decent feel for the market. Um, and they know what they're doing with setting orders and trading, and they know how stocks overall work, how securities work, IPOs, um, and they're ready to try something new, and which leads us to this button right here that says options. Options scare a lot of people for good reason. Uh, you can lose money relatively quick, uh, painfully slowly as well when you buy something at its peak and it just kind of starts to Fibonacci out. Which Fibonacci, yeah, I use that word a lot. Basically the Fibonacci sequence is just something that reduces itself by half each time. The golden ratio. Um, so, you know, go back to options in 2 seconds here. Just going to show. Let's try to find a good example of. Akiugen should have one. So when they're another bad example. Here we go. Put it back to line. Dun, 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 put it on 1 year. So that's kind of what a Fibonacci sequence, in a sense, looks like. It just kind of, and this one's a little extreme, but it's more just kind of reduces at a nice angle going down slowly, 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 kind of halves itself each time. That's kind of what a Fibonacci sequence is. So I just call it fibbing out. Um, and a lot of short sellers, watch that kind of pattern. It's probably the most popular pattern to watch in trading, aka the failing wedge. Uh, but anyways, we're gonna go back to Rocket Lab here, and so anyways, options looks very, very intimidating. There's nothing to it. It's super simple. So what is an option? It's a contract that you buy that's worth 100 shares of stock. So one contract equals 100 shares of stock. And these are handy because you pay a premium to get your option contract, and you get the option to buy your 100 shares at a later date. It's handy because if it's $1,000 to get 100 shares of the company you want, you might be able to get an options contract for 150 that doesn't expire for 6 months. And 6 months later, when you have the money, you can pay the difference. Meaning, if you paid, let's say you paid 200 for your contract, and uh, at expiration, or whenever you get the money, you want to buy that $1,000 worth of shares. Well, it's only going to cost you another 800, and that's handy. A lot of people use them just to reserve shares at a later date when they have the money to buy them, and there's no limit to how many you can get. But I'm going to show you the basics of them. I'm not really going to get into open interest or implied volume. But what I am going to get into is strike price, expiration, delta, gamma, and theta. So when you pull up your options chart, you're going to see numbers here underneath the strike price: 5, 6, 750, 9, 10. And these are going to be different with each company. Your strike price is the price that you agree to pay per share. So right now, Rocket Lab is 876. So if you want to get 750 calls, and going long on an option is a call, and shorting with options is called puts. And you change that right down here where it says calls, single option. You can switch it to puts if you so choose. And these are soft calls. Soft calls usually don't go much past a year or two. Hard calls are a little bit different, completely other conversation. So you got your strike price. Now, if the stock is at 876, 750, that would mean it's in the money, right? Meaning in the money just basically means it's under the price per share of the stock. And out of the money means it's at a dollar amount that the stock hasn't reached yet. So 750. So right now, the stock price is 876. So if you buy if you buy a stock for a strike price of $7.50, you're going to pay $135 for it. So now the reason it says 1.35, $1.35, you're going to multiply that times 100 because there's 100 shares in that contract, which means you're going to pay $135. Somewhere between 135 and 150. Usually these numbers aren't spread out quite as so much, so these people are asking 150 for the contracts. The bid is 135. Whether or not your order fills can be tricky. Option orders don't fill as fast. You can mess around with those numbers. What I usually do, if somebody's asking 150 and the bid is 135, I'll try to put in an order at 135. I'll let it sit for 5 minutes. If it doesn't fill, I'll go to 140. And then maybe it'll fill. If it doesn't fill, go to 145. And just keep trying to get it cheaper, because you can put in, at the end of the day, it's still an auction. You can put in a bid price and somebody, might have a contract for sale for less than the ask. You never know. It's always worth starting out less to check that out. And up here is your date. So here's April 14, 2022. And if you scroll down, go all the way to the bottom, you'll have these. So these are further out, 57 days out, 113 days out. Now you're going to pay more money for time. So these are January 20, 2023, 302 days out. So an $8 call is probably going to be closer to this $295 right here. Probably around $275 you could pick this one up for, but maybe not. You never know. That's one of those things that makes them tricky. You got to put in different price amounts and just see if your order fills after a few minutes. But you pay more for time. So that means in 302 days, this option expires. Now, if the stock, let's say you have a $10 call, and you'll notice when it's out of the money, it gets cheaper, right? Because the way that works, in the money calls, when they expire, you get paid. It'll fill them automatically. If you don't sell it, you'll get paid for what the premium is worth at the time of expiration. You'll probably be getting paid a little less than you spent originally on the premium, but you'll make some money back. And if it's in the money, it'll pay and it'll fill the order, sell it automatically for you. If it's out of the money, it expires, you get nothing. It just disappears. If you can't, and then sometimes they're hard to sell. You might have a stock or an option that you made money on, but you can't sell it. So if you buy this for $10, this $10 strike at $1.95, 195 times 100, right? And yeah, come January 20th, the stock price hasn't at least hit $10 or gone past it. You're gonna be you're either gonna have to do one of two things. You're gonna have to pay $10 per share to buy those shares, which is, if it's out of the money, it's going to be more than the actual price of the stock is worth. But if you don't want to lose out on, the premium you've spent, some people just do exercise out of the money shares, which stinks. I don't advise it, but it can happen. But it's one way you can hedge losing your money on an option. But otherwise, if it expires out of the money, meaning the stock price hasn't hit the strike price, it's still under it, you're basically screwed. Now, how are these numbers determined? Well, that's where you get into, you scroll over and you have delta, gamma, theta. And it looks very confusing, but it's actually super, super simple. These are what everybody refers to as the Greeks. And really quickly, you'll notice this one says 88 on a $5 strike price. The more closer you are to being in the money, the higher your delta is. Now, what this number means is very simple. For every dollar that the stock goes up, you make $88. And on the next dollar, when it goes up, you add the gamma to it, which is 0.03. So this number will be increased by 0.03 on the second dollar, right? And then it'll make it, you'll get paid more. And so on and so on. It's a very, very simple process. It's just how much your option fluctuates in price by increments of $1 up or down. But every dollar it goes up, the gamma gets added to it and increases it. And your theta is your decay rate. This is how much money it'll take away every single day that the option, whether it goes up or down, I believe. Maybe somebody else can comment on that. It's something I forget, but that's how much the theta takes away from your contracts. In other words, if the stock doesn't go up or down and it just sits there, you'll lose 0.0005 cents a day. Now, as you get closer to expiration, this number starts to go up dramatically. You get to the last 60 days and then the last 30 days, and this theta really starts to come up. And your theta is basically your deterioration. It takes away from your profit. And the reason the theta numbers are so low is because this contract, we put it on January 20th, 2023, so it's 302 days out. The further out you are, the lower your theta is, so you don't get that theta decay. Whereas if we scroll up here to April next month, yeah, you'll notice for out of the money calls, these $9 and $10 ones, you'll notice the theta numbers. Look at that, a lot more per day. And that's what happens as you get closer. And you might think, oh, it's 0.01. It adds up, for sure, especially if you have a red day on the market. But delta and your max, here's one that's in the money. So your max is basically $99, and this is why options are lucrative. I mean, you have one contract and you're in the money. Now, when the strike price meets the price per share, that's when your delta is the highest. Meaning, if you have a $10 strike price, and the stock goes from like $7.50 to $10, that's when your delta is going to be at the highest. It's going to be 99, which means from there you can make every dollar it's going up, you're making $99. Which that's a crazy return. And even on the way down, as it goes further, now once it passes 10, let's say it goes from 10 to 15, it's going to start to go down after it passes that strike price. So if it goes from 10 to 15, it'll start to go from like 99 to 98 to 97. Whatever this gamma is that's reducing it each time is how much it'll reduce by once it passes the strike price. So you make money on the way up and on the way down. As your delta is climbing, as the stock is rising, you make money. And as it passes your strike price and starts to go down, you're still making good money. I mean, deltas in the 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s are just insane. And that's what happened with GameStop. These guys were buying options contracts when the stock was $3 a share, and it went to $475. And there's a guy that spent $40,000 in options contracts, and he ended up making like $70 million with over 50. His return percentage was 50,000%. I mean, so that's why options are lucrative, because the return on your investment can be huge, and it's a patience thing. And if you find, and here's the thing, if just because they have contracts that are maybe 2 years out, you might not be able to find somebody that's willing to sell shares that they have under an options contract to buy. So and it all sounds confusing, but I mean, I highly recommend getting on Investopedia and checking out what options are, or other YouTubers that explain this way better than me, with a blackboard behind them. But they're super simple. Your price, these numbers are times 100, so that would be $50. And your delta is how much your stock goes up by. Your gamma is what determines how much it goes up. Increases your gamma is what increases your delta numbers, and then your theta is your time decay. All of those are reflected in money. They're all numbers that take away or add to the value of your option. And you can exercise at any point in time. Let's say you buy an option contract, for $100 for 100 shares of a company, and a week, and it may be the expiration on it is for 6 months later. Um, a week later, the price of the stock just jumps 50%, 100%. Sell it, dump it. And that's what a lot of people are banking on, getting an option, waiting for, sometime, they get one for 6 months or a year out, and they're hoping sometime within the first 3 to 6 months that they have it, that it, jumps in price and they can just sell the contract to somebody else. And then that other person, is stuck with either selling it. It's musical chairs. The closer you get to expiration, who's going to get stuck with the contract? If it's in the money, nobody's going to care because you can exercise it for a strike price that's lower than the price per share. So if you buy a stock that's got a $7.50 strike price and it goes to $100, you still only pay $7.50 per share. It locks you into that price. That's why it's a contract. But yeah, you can sell it at any time. You can exercise it at any time. Makes no difference. You just obviously don't want to exercise anything that's out of the money. But yeah, and obviously all of you that I've, helped get into trading, obviously I can PM all of you and explain it in more detail, or if you have more questions, I can send you videos, but hopefully gives you a little bit of an idea on what the options are. And, as far as buying them, click on the one you want, the little green number, and you can set your price right here, up or down. It's just like the stock. Buy one contract. Obviously right here you can see it says times 100 shares, just like buying shares of stock. And then piece of cake, and your price or whatever will be reflected at the bottom, how much it is. So you type in 7 contracts for this particular estimated amount, $350, so it'll do the math for you automatically. Piece of cake. But anyways, that's my basic summarization on options and what they are and buying them. So